Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Shinvatam Sugata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantastohya Badrani Virunoti Suritsatam Nashtaprayashvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text 15. Isha Bisrishtam Yavarundmahenga Dukam Sukham Vaguna Karma Sangat Astaya Tatadyada Yunkta Natash Chakshush Matanda Ivaniyamana. Translation. My dear Priyavrata, according to our association with different modes of material nature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives us our specific bodies and the happiness and distress we achieve. One must therefore remain situated as he is and be conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, exactly as a man is led by a person who has eyes with which to see. Purport. By material means, one cannot avoid the happiness and distress unique to his particular body. There are 8,400,000 bodily forms, each destined to enjoy and suffer a certain amount of happiness and distress. This we cannot change, for the happiness and distress are ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in accordance with whose decision we have received our bodies. Since we cannot avoid the plan of the Supreme Godhead, we must agree to be directed by him, just as a blind man is led by a person who has eyes. Under any circumstances, if we remain in the condition allotted to us by the Supreme Lord and follow his instructions, we will become perfect. The main purpose of life is to follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is such instructions that constitute one's religion or occupational duty. In Bhagavad Gita, therefore, Lord Krishna says, give up all other engagements, simply surrender unto me and follow me. Gita 1866. This process of surrendering by following instructions of the Supreme Personality of God is not meant for any particular caste or creed. A Brahmana can surrender, and so can a Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. Everyone can adopt this process, as stated in this verse, Chakshush Matanda Eva Niyamana. One should follow the Lord the way a blind man follows a person who has eyes. If we follow the Supreme Personality of Godhead by following the directions he gives in the Vedas and Bhagavad Gita, our lives will be successful. The Lord therefore says, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mam evaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. Always think of me, become my devotee, and offer respect and obeisances unto me. Then you will certainly come back home, back to Godhead. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend, 1865. This instruction is meant for everyone, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. If anyone from any division of life surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and follows his instructions, his life will be successful. The previous verse has given the analogy of bulls moving under the direction of the driver of a bullock cart. The bulls, being completely surrendered to the driver, remain wherever he wants to place them, and eat whatever he wants them to eat. Similarly, being completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we should not aspire for happiness or regret distress. We must be satisfied with the position allotted to us by the Lord. We should follow the path of devotional service and not be dissatisfied with the happiness and distress he has given. People in the material modes of passion and ignorance generally cannot understand the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with its 8,400,000 forms of life. But the human form affords one the special privilege to understand this plan, engage in devotional service, and elevate oneself to the highest position of perfection by following the Lord's instructions. The entire world is working under the influence of the modes of material nature, especially ignorance and passion. But if people engage in hearing and chanting about the glories of the Supreme Lord, their lives can be successful and they can be elevated to the highest perfection. In the Brihan Naradiya Purana, therefore, it is said, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasyeva, Nasyeva, Nasyeva Gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, no other way, no other way for spiritual perfection than the holy name, the holy name, the holy name of the Lord. Everyone should be given the chance to hear the holy names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for thus one will gradually come to understand his real position in life and be elevated to the transcendental position above the mode of goodness. Thus, all impediments to his progress will be cut to pieces. In conclusion, therefore, we must be satisfied in whatever position we have been put into by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we should try to engage ourselves in his devotional service. Then our lives will be successful. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshusha Vitam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Vishnu Bhatale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshtarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Vishesha Vanchakalpatrubhisha Kirpasindhivya Pritanam Bhavnavya Vaishnavya Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Gauravani Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So, this verse, Isha Bisrishtam Yavarund Mahenga, um, it says Isha Abhisrishtam, like Srijati, Srishta. It's sent forth, that which is sent forth by Isha, by the Lord. The dukam and the sukam, the happiness and distress which is sent forth by the Lord, it's very clearly shown here that it's not the Lord who's deciding you get this happiness, you get this distress. It's not that he's biased. This is kind of discussed in the fifth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where it's described, who is the actual doer here? Is it the living entity? Is it the modes of nature? Is it the Lord? Well, the Lord is faultless, because he's giving what we deserve, more or less. I mean, if we're taking it as a neutral Paramatma sort of ontological aspect here, guna karma sangat in today's verse, right? So where is the dukkha and sukha from? It's from our association with the modes of nature and our activities under those modes of nature. That's, however, um, it is being sent forth by the Lord. It is being sanctioned and ordained by Krishna. Um, so Brahma here is telling Priyavrata, Avarund Mahe Anga, oh dear one, we accept that which is sent forth by the Lord. So he's trying to convince Priyavrata to take up the managerial position of the kingdom. Priyavrata is a brahmachari. He's with Narada Muni. He's in the forest. He's chanting and hearing. Um, and he doesn't really want to engage himself in householder life, what to speak of managerial life of a kshatriya in a kingdom. A lot of headache, a lot of responsibilities, lots of rajas and tamas, right? So he doesn't want to do that. But Brahma is coming because he's got no one else. And he's saying, you got to do it. Now, one might look at it and think, we all might hear this pastime through this chapter and might take sides. Some of us might be thinking, yes, this is proper. He disobeyed his father's order. Now Brahma has to come. And get him, force him to do it. He should do that. And it kind of makes sense. Okay, yeah, householder life, managerial, you can still practice your Christian. Yeah, what's the problem? He's avoiding his responsibilities. And others might feel a little upset with Brahma, or think, hey, Brahma's just trying to get him to manage. He's just trying to fulfill this universal position that he needs filled. And, you know, Priyavrata was happy in Krishna consciousness. He was doing his bhakti with Narada. Like, that's supreme. And why should he be taken away from that? He find someone else. So we might read this past them and take sides here. Um, but that's, that's not really the point. The point is, as Prabhupada says in purport, Sarvadharma Pratyaja. This is actually what is being taught in this section of the Bhagavatam. Um, it's not about what the Lord tells you, it's about whatever the Lord tells you. That should be we should submit to that. So just like Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's trying to convince him to fight. Someone might also feel like, no, don't fight. Arjuna was right. Arjuna's arguments weren't, totally bad in the beginning of the Gita, like first chapter. You can read those arguments. Okay, he's got a point. Knowing the whole history, it's not a great argument, but um, meaning the history of the fight between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Um, but anyway, someone might take sides in that too. Point is Sarvadharma Pratyaja, and Brahma is making that argument. He's logically making the argument actually for this surrender to the Lord's will. He's in the previous few verses, he mentions that he's basically giving this progression. You have to accept your body, right? I mean, I'm looking in the video here. I'm looking at this form, and you know, you can go look in the mirror and look, hey, what's this? How did I get this? Well, you just got it. I mean, that's what he's saying. 8,400,000 species of life. Brahma is basically mentioning the Lord decided this. The Lord gave you this. You didn't have really a say in it. Similarly, the next verse is talking about Varna Ashram, which basically means psychophysical nature, which basically means guna and karma. You got your gunas and karmas also. You might say, well, I have this body, but I can do anything I want. Not really. You have a certain psychology. You have a certain mode of nature that you're operating under. Some people are businessmen, some people are artists, some people are construction workers, some people are, everyone's different, different types of work, right? And then you might say, um, that was the analogy given in the previous verse about the bowl being on the grinding mortar. Um, the Lord engages the living entity in a certain type of work. Not only do they give him just the body, but also a certain type of work. So we're dependent on our body and our type of work, essentially. Now we might say, well, we're all doing the same type of work. All those bowls are exactly the same. They're all just grinding the grinding mortar. I'm doing the exact same type of work as the guy next to me. Why am I getting a different result? Why were some bowls getting chastised? Why are some bowls being fed nicely? Why are some bowls, you know, why is the result of the karma differently? That's also dependent on the Lord, right? There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita. Actually, there's many verses in Bhagavad Gita. This is chapter 2. Karma nyevadikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma palaheturbur ma te sangos karmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So that's the point in today's verse, is that even the results of the activities, whether it's dukkha, whether it's sukha, it's coming from your specific guna and karma, but it's given by the Lord. So whatever it is, we accept that. That's also what we're dependent on. So in all these stages, from our own body, from the type of work where we are disposed towards, and also to the results of that work, we are always dependent on the Lord. So Brahma's argument to Priyavrata is, why would you not be dependent on the Lord's instruction now? The Lord is wanting you to engage like this. He's wanting you, this is the will of the Lord, so why would you try to do something else? Um, so, in the subsequent verses from this verse, we'll get a little bit of, more logic from Brahma about um, how even a renunciate, it's not that uh, the renunciation in the forest is necessarily the type of work that you should do. Although you're qualified, he kind of wraps it up and says, you're totally qualified, but like you just don't worry about the sense enjoyment in the kingdom. But he does make the point about the six enemies, which is a kind of a famous verse, so that'll be coming up. But yeah, this verse is really special, I think. I enjoyed looking at it because it's a point that we all struggle with constantly, is accepting what comes to us, right? This is a big portion of the Shastra is trying to, um, in a devotional way, teach the living entities to be grateful to the Lord, whether it's dukkha, whether it's sukha, whether it's something we don't exactly think we should be getting. Um, there's a few beautiful verses I'll read from Canto 1, Chapter 6. This is where Narada, when he was a boy, he experiences his mother's death. She gets bit by the snake, and this is the way he thinks. He says, uh, this is verse 10. Tada tad aham ishasya bhaktanam sham abhipsata anugraham manyamana pratishtam dishamutram. I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees, and so thinking, I started for the north. So this is his thinking that um, this snake bite, I was 5 years old, my mother died, I had nowhere to go, nowhere to turn to. But knowing that the Lord, Bhaktanam Sham Abhipsata, Anugraham, Manyamana. So, Manyamana, I was thinking in this way that the Lord always desires Ipsata. The Lord is always desiring Anugraha. Anugraha means special mercy, great mercy. He always wants mercy for his devotees. So, thinking this way, I started for the north. Um, you could very easily take that in a different way. Like the Lord is against me. I'm cursed. My mother died. I have nothing to do, nowhere to go. He didn't take it that way. Krishna himself says in the 10th canto when Yudhisthira asks him, why are your devotees poor? Why are Shiva's devotees rich? What's going on here? And Krishna says, Yasyaham anugrinami harishe tadhanam shanai tatodhanam tyajantyasya swajana dukkha dukhitam. He says that when I especially favor someone, anugrinami, that's that word again, anugraha, anugrinami, when I especially have mercy on someone, I take away all their wealth. So, um, these are just a few examples, of course, of what we would consider a reversal of what we think is good, what we think is mercy of the Lord. But just like today's verse, it's a very beautiful analogy. Chakshushmata anda eva niyamana. Anda, a blind person, niyamana, yamas, right? Niyamana. So being conducted, just like a blind person is conducted, the person who's chakshushmat, one who has eyes, conducts and leads that blind person in such a way. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a beautiful example, analogy of it, that we might be that blind person. If a blind person is saying, hey, why did you bring me on this path? It's sunny, it's too hot, my feet are burning. The other path in the shade might have had thorns, might have been a worse path. So, because the blind person cannot see that, he must just trust the person with eyes who can see. Um, there's a lot more potentially to go over, um, but it's a really beautiful verse. I really enjoyed it. And this is a great section again, Brahma speaking to Priyavrata. And yeah, I guess I'll stop there. Srimad Bhagavatam.